Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Hi, I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk today about convincing others, how to convince others to prepare. First, I want to say thank you for everybody who left a comment on the video that I did with my son Brody yesterday. He got a big kick out of it. He got a kick out of reading all of your comments and compliments to him, and that made him feel very special. So I thank you for that. Um, Also, I've had a number of people that have told me that when they went to the Amazon page to buy my books, that they couldn't find an author page for me. And I have to admit that I don't know a lot about this, but I think that we fixed the problem on that as far as getting the author page right. And I'm going to try on this one, instead of putting the different links to my different books down here below, as I have in the past. Excuse me. I'm going just to put the link to the author page. Pardon me. I just took my sinus pill. Probably not early enough. Yeah, that's one of those things when it all comes crashing down. We're not going to have those. I've stocked up a bunch, but eventually they'll run out. Anyway, so I'm going to put that link down here, just the link to my author page on Amazon, and that should have the listing for all of my books right there, and you can look at them, peruse them, buy them, whatever you want, and remember that I put up that one the other day about how to get autographed copies, and somebody told me that there were two different zip codes on that, and I've fixed that. So thank you all for letting me know those things. I appreciate it. Okay, one of the main questions in preparedness, those among those who are prepared and work at it, and probably one of the most common questions I get is how do I convince my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my friends, people that I know to prepare? I think that really is, after you've determined to prepare yourself, that's one of the most important things you can do, is try to get others to prepare as well. And the reasons are obvious, and we've discussed those a lot. Is that, first off, when people come to you, and when everything goes down into the dirt, the more people that are prepared, the less problem it's going to be for you, as far as them coming to you and expecting you to provide for their needs. But also we want the best. We want the strongest group coming to us, and our immediate group, of course, is always our family and our friends. And therein lies some of the difficulty. It's one thing for people to look at somebody that they consider to be an expert, whether it's a book or a news article, or the latest thing that comes out about EMP threats, anything like that. It's one thing for people to read those and think, well, this is an expert. The old saying, expert is a guy with a briefcase from out of town, because they always know more than the guy next door, right? And Jesus himself said, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown. And that's just a way to say, familiarity breeds contempt. That how could you be, how could you know, about this? After all, you're my friend, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my whatever. And so, when you're dealing with people, that's kind of an impediment right there. But there are ways to get over that. And I'm going to throw out a few here right now that are the obvious ones, but then I'm going to tell a story about a good friend of mine and really what broke through on him. When we talk to people about preparedness, you don't want to throw it up in their face. You don't want to throw it all at once. It's just best to gradually, lead into it. Boy, things are, I've read about the possibility of shortages and, whatever you want to throw up. And actually, this latest thing with the shortages after the COVID, and and all. I mean, it really drove home to a lot of people. It made preppers out of people who had made fun of preppers before, if nothing more than just with toilet paper. But they at least started to understand that uh, being able to access what they considered to be the basic necessities of life wasn't a certainty and could be interrupted with things, any number of things beyond their control. That's a good place to start. When I start kind of soft touching this on people, I explained that I realized that not being prepared, and this is kind of it was not exactly, but it's just what I use because, as I've told you before, I've been of a prepper mindset pretty much all of my life. But as I introduce it to other people, I explained that, well, you understand, and I came to understand that not being prepared was essentially, irresponsible. And that usually kind of gets them, to thinking, because nobody likes to think of themselves or be called irresponsible. And they'll say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, when you rely on the things that you need for your basic necessities, especially for your kids, and that perks up more ears for your kids. You rely on people beyond your control, and systems beyond your control for those basic necessities of life. That's really, and not providing everything you can. That's the height of irresponsibility. And that gets them to thinking, and then I take it into the next step of, well, you have car insurance, well, yeah. Well, do you expect to wreck your car? Well, could happen. Well, I said, well, that's true. It could happen. So could these other things happen? If do you carry full coverage? Well, yeah. Well, do you owe anything on your car? Well, no. Well, then you're not required to carry anything except liability. So why do you carry comprehensive and collision and, road hazard and all this? Why do you do that? Well, it's just a good idea to kind of, I see, be prepared. That's right. And I say, do you carry a homeowner's insurance on your house? Well, yeah, I'm required to carry it on my house, by my mortgage company. Well, if you don't have a mortgage, or when you pay off your house, you still going to carry it? Well, yeah. What if it burned down? I says, okay, what if, right? So you are a prepper. You are a preparedness-minded person. And, the term prepper turns a lot of people off. So when I'm talking to them, I don't use that term. I talk about being a prepared, responsible person. And then they go, yeah, that's true. And then, it's easier to get into, what? We've seen how, did you see the empty shelves? This last thing has made it a lot easier to convince people. You see the empty shelves, were you able to get toilet paper whenever you wanted to? No, I wasn't. Were you able to get, your favorite foods? Well, no, I wasn't. Things were falling out. I couldn't get rice. I couldn't get that. They had a two can limit on soup and a thing limit on spaghetti sauce. And, okay, well, wouldn't it have been nice just to be able to go down into, the basement or into your storage shed or to your garage and have everything that you want there for a year? And most people can't even fathom that. The idea that they wouldn't have to go to the store every day just is beyond them. Now, people in the country live, a different lifestyle, but people in the city and the suburbs, it actually becomes kind of a social, I think, a social situation to where going to the store fulfills a need for them, a daily need of getting out and doing something and seeing people and whatever, seeing what deal they can find. And that's a whole different subject that we probably don't have time to get into here. But I want to tell a story of how I really brought around a good friend of mine to become a full-blown, from nothing to a full-blown preparedness-minded person. And those first circles around us, our family and our friends, are the most important. And not just because, we feel a responsibility to them, but because we know that they are the kind of people, in most cases, I know you can't choose your family, and like I've said before, good friends beat bad family. But those ones that we do, intend to include in our circle, when circles need to be made, are those people that have already shown us that they are quality people. They share our beliefs, they share our values, and they are the ones that are important to rebuild a community or a society, or either sustain ourselves through it or to rebuild it at the end. And I talked a lot about this in my first book, The Reversion. It was all about those first phases and choosing people and understanding, bringing people in that were going to be contributors, to the situation. So anyway, I'll tell you about a friend of mine. He's a very smart guy, one of the smartest guys I know. And he's retired. He's a retired lawyer. He was a district attorney. Okay, so a very bright guy. And a very worldly guy. Well, he had told me a story one time. He was trying to get me to get my son into Cub Scouts. And one of the stories that he told me, now he's working on his second family now, his older family, they're all grown up and adults, but he's got young boys like I do now from a second marriage. And so he had thrown himself into Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and he was trying to get me to get my son, Aiden, when he was much younger, into Cub Scouts. And I was fine with it because I had a great Cub Scout experience. As it turned out, we didn't continue in it because we did find some things that we didn't like. But as my friend was telling me, he said, what really convinced him is that one of the other fathers was talking to him one night, and he said, it takes more than just a father to have the proper impact on boys. And he says, as they get older, they're going to see what men around them do. And this is why so many of us fathers become a part of this organization, so that we can kind of be the helpers, of each other in raising these boys and showing them the proper examples. And he said, so he looked at my friend, and my friend was very, very dramatic when he told me. He says, he looked at me, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, now I am willing to help you raise your son. Why aren't you willing to help me raise mine? And that really had an impact on my friend. Now, it didn't have the same impact on me. I had, my father was the man that I looked up to. And I had uncles and grandfathers and all that, so I didn't really need an expanded ring of men around. But it can be important. It's one thing. Every father should be the leader of his family, the chief of his family, the whatever. But it's good for the children and mother, also. But it's good for the children to see those. That there are people around them who also exhibit the same values and principles, and then they see that it's a universally accepted and expected system of values, principles, and beliefs, and that makes it easier. It's kind of like the way things were when I was a kid, right? Way back when. Well, so anyway, so I listened to that. Well, I tried for a long time to get him to buy a gun. He didn't even own a gun. Now, he owned a shotgun, owned a couple of shotguns. And I think an old pistol somewhere that he kept in, the attic or someplace. And I kept, trying to get him to buy a gun. And I said, I tried to tell him it's getting more dangerous. It's getting more dangerous. And like I say, he was a district attorney, a prosecutor. He knew what kind of scum is out there in the world. And Buddy lives in a very nice neighborhood. We live in a place out here that it's easy to feel like you're in a cocoon and safe from everything. And finally he came. We were talking on his front step one time, and he shook his head and he said, "You know what? I guess I just don't want to admit that I live in a world where that's necessary." And I kind of looked at him and I said, "Come on, man. Come on. You don't want to admit." Now, that is the first step of dealing with reality, is admitting what this real situation is. And you're smarter than that. He kind of shook his head or nodded, and Yeah, he was. And so he finally bought a gun. And then I started trying to get him to carry it. And he was very resistant to that. His wife was very resistant to it. And we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked. And finally, I cracked his nut with this. And I said, you remember that you told me about that guy that asked you why you wouldn't be willing to help him raise his son in Scouts if he was willing to help you? He said, yeah, I remember that. I said, okay. Well, say that you and your wife and Kelly and I are out at dinner sometime. And we're walking back to our car, and a couple of guys come out in front of us. And whether or not they have knives or nothing or guns or whatever, they're gonna, they're gonna entertain themselves with us. I said, now I carry, and I will help defend you and your wife. Why aren't you willing to help defend me and mine? And boy, he started smiling and shaking his head, and he saw that that really was the question. So when I talk to people about preparedness, I do explain. I prepare, and these are people first in my circle. I prepare in order to be able to sustain my family and those I care about. And that includes you. This is me talking to the people, okay? That when it all goes down, you will have a place to come. You come to my place. But if I'm willing to help you, why aren't you willing to help yourself and thereby help me? And that is a mental puzzle that takes them a couple of minutes to solve. And once they see that, many of them, not all of them, many of them start to think differently. And then you're past the first hurdle, and then it's simply a matter of, okay, how do I do that? Now, back to my friend, he started thinking more and more about preparedness. As we started talking, he read my books. We started talking about preparedness. He was still in very involved in scouting. He's the leader of, the big leader of many scout troops. And this, of course, gave him the opportunity to think more and to discuss more with other fathers about preparedness. And so he started thinking about water. And so I got him, getting a Berkey, and I got him getting Sawyer water filters, and we discussed the importance of food storage. And he started in. And he really started on it probably 5 years ago, and he is now one of the most prepared people that I know. It was just last year, you probably heard me talk about trailers, the importance of trailers in case you need to get going. Now, this is as if the vehicles are still running, so this isn't about, an EMP or a CME, but there are plenty of things short of those that we might want to boogie, right? And so he went out and he got a trailer, and they went out and he kind of introduced his family to it, and they took a little trip, and he got him to enjoy it, and they came back, and it wasn't a year later, and he went down and got a bigger one. And he said, I can see that I can't haul everything that I need in that smaller one. So now he got a bigger one. And they took a nice family trip out west. They went up through the Badlands and Custer Park and Mount Rushmore and the Tetons and all Yellowstone, all up through there as kind of a shakeout for their new trailer and a training. It was essentially a training for he, his wife, and their two sons, good quality, competent young men that we are happy to have a part of our group if we ever need to bring that group in a circle. And they did a nice shakeout on that in a training run in their new trailer. So here is a man that within a period of 6-7 years has gone from not even owning a gun to becoming one of the most prepared people that I know. And so as a result of that, by approaching them in those ways, you can make them think, and you can make them start to convince themselves, understand first and then convince themselves of the importance and the responsibility of being a prepared-minded person. And then your group gets stronger, and then you become safer. So I'd simply leave that. That's pretty much what I wanted to say about that. People can be resistant. It can be easy for them to just slough off things and make it sound silly. But when you approach them in a reasonable, non-frantic, non-panicky, non-crazy way, and when you approach them as a settled, thoughtful person, you're going to make inroads. Now you're not going to get everybody. You can't get everybody on anything, but this is the way that I have found I've been able to get a lot of people interested in and then involved in preparing, and many of them have become very, very prepared people. That strengthens them, and that strengthens me. So look around and just kind of think about this yourself, because it really is one of the most important things you can do to prepare for your own safety and for those around you. You can think you can have every can of beans in the world, but if you're supporting everybody that comes to you, things are going to wear kind of thin. And you do need those people. You need people above all else, other than food, water, and air, right, and shelter. But you need people. And I'll throw in, I don't throw this in a lot, but, I get some comments on here, don't forget God. Trust me, I don't forget God. I don't talk about it a lot. But God is the first thing you need, just in case there are any people out there that are wondering. Yes, God, family, friends, we could talk about where country goes in on that, but things change all the time on that, and I don't want to get into it right now. So think about this. If it works for you, I think you'll find that you'll strengthen yourself and your circle. And good luck with it. Best of luck with it. Remember that I'm going to put the links to my author page down here. We'll see if that works. I hope it does, because then it's just one link that you can go to, and you can see, a little bit about me. And I know that you don't know much about me. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Some of you do. And then you'll be able to access all of my books and things like that. So we'll see how that works. Let me know if it doesn't work. And remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And developing the preparedness of the people around you is right up top of that preparing well, because they're the tomorrow. They're part of the tomorrow that we have to deal with, right? Okay. Well, you all have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.